Live to YouTube, preparing the live stream. All right, my man. I believe we're on YouTube right now.
Hello, YouTube.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing great. It's Friday.
All right.
It's going to be a good weekend. So, just jumping on here to do our e-commerce tip of the week.
Now, this is a breakthrough moment because we've been doing this tip of the week deal for Facebook for the last, year and a half,
Yeah.
and have not been showing YouTube the love. So we're switching it up and saying goodbye to Facebook and hello to YouTube for these. So we're going to be live every week, hopefully every week. We generally do Fridays, generally do noon, and we're going to break it down, talk about e-commerce strategy, and that's our usual routine. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
It's going to be good. If I had like this really funny Zuckerberg sad shocked face as a meme, I could put that up with some little breakup music. So goodbye, Facebook. Hello,
Yeah,
YouTube.
I'm sure he's very upset.
He is. He's crying a little bit in his soul. In his soul, he knows.
Oh man. Yeah, so let's proceed to the details of the show, man. Let's jump into it. So let everybody know that every week we try to break it down for e-commerce sellers. And if you're new to the show and you haven't seen us on Facebook, basically we work with e-commerce sellers on Udemy. We have about 20,000 students, and the course Shopify Power is ranked #1 in e-commerce on Udemy. And then we have Inner Circle students and also one-on-one coaching students. So we put it all together and we come up with new trainings frequently, new topics. We've got questions literally every week. We're constantly coaching people. Kyle, I think you hopped off a coaching call 10 minutes ago or so.
Yep.
And so we're in the mix with people all day long, every week. And we also run our own e-commerce operations. So Pixie Fair is my Shopify site. It's ranked in the top 1/10 of all Shopify sites. If you look by worldwide site traffic, you can go check out pixiefair.com. And then Kyle, you've got your own two brands as well, Lita and Old Boy.
Sir, yes, sir.
Generally, you represent the Amazon sales channel, and I represent the Shopify sales channel.
Yes.
But you're in all of it as well, Shopify and Amazon both, and beyond, right? So.
Absolutely. Let's do a little humble brag. How many visitors did you get to your Shopify store in 2018?
Do I know the number off the top of my head? I told you 2 weeks ago, and now I don't even remember the number. Do you remember the number?
It was a ridiculous number. It was was it 1.3?
1.3. Yeah, 1.3 million.
1.3 million.
Yeah.
Not like 1.3. Like that's that's most of us get to Shopify stores, which it's like 1.3 people. No, 1.3 million people. That's legitimate. That's pretty cool. So
yeah, that's
I'll brag about you. That's legit. That's real traffic.
Yeah, and you can go check us out. Throw our site into SimilarWeb or other sites, Alexa or an Alexa. Is that now? I'm getting Alexa mixed up with
Amazon.
Who am I thinking of? This site.
No, it is Alexa.
Alexa, yeah. See, now
it is Alexa.
Is it Siri? What do you know? I'm just kidding.
No.
Yes, Alexa or SimilarWeb, or you can use SpyFu. Sure, we like SpyFu. Go check out our site stats if you want to see how I do my e-commerce work on Shopify. No secrets, and that's really, I think, why a lot of people like to follow along with us, because we're willing to talk about our own brands and our own e-commerce work, and just say, here's what we do, here's how we do it. No worries. You want to compete head to head against me? Go ahead. And, that's how it rolls. So, but we love to talk about the topic in general. So today we got a good one.
It's going to be
fun. Ready for this?
I'm ready. Bring it on.
I'm thinking it's like a boxing match. Yes.
Bum, bum, bum.
Right. Print on demand business model versus private label business model. And so let me set the stage on this a little bit. This is context. And then I believe, since you mentioned you were in the debate club in junior high school. I'm debating a.
No. This was a higher ed debate. I debated people from Yale and
seriously?
Harvard. Yeah, seriously.
Oh, it's on, man. Okay.
It's a real deal.
So,
I may have won a few in my day.
oh my
So,
Lord. Well, I'm going to take private label model, and you're going to
all
take
right.
print on demand model,
Yes.
and we will debate the merits of these two business models. And so that'll be fun. So, and let's do that. But let me give a tiny bit of context for people who maybe are new to e-commerce or whatever. Basically, in the last, let's say, 3 years, a massive trend has occurred in e-commerce where a lot of Amazon sellers who are doing retail arbitrage or online arbitrage have come to a new revelation of finding a business model that might be more sustainable and long term. And many people have migrated towards private label brand strategy. So we'll describe that. And then the other thing that's occurred is over the last couple of years, many people have migrated towards working through Amazon's merch platform, which is a print on demand, started as a print on demand t-shirt, operation, and has expanded from there. And if you're not familiar with merch, I've spoken at the Seattle Merch Conference. So the last couple of years, Chris Green is a guru of merch as a platform. There are massive success stories, people who are doing really well with print on demand. And the speakers at that conference have included Amazon executives. I mean, we've heard the story of how merch was created. It's amazing. You were there with Cody one of the years, this last year.
Yep.
And those conferences are so fun because it's like, hey, look, I make $40,000 a month doing, here's what I do. And everybody's like, it's so cool. So there's definitely energy, enthusiasm, momentum around, print on demand and merch. Merch is a platform that Amazon has. Print on demand would be the bigger category that includes other sites that also do similar things. Yeah. So let me describe private label business model, and then you describe print on demand business model.
Sure.
And then we'll begin to debate the merits of both. But just for people who are new to it, let's just clarify exactly what the business model looks like and how it works for both of them, and then we'll talk through. Does that seem cool?
Super cool.
Okay. You want to go first?
Sure. I can talk print on demand.
Sure.
Yeah. So basically the idea with print on demand is you are working with a distributor, a manufacturer that will, through various methods, place a graphic, photo, image, whatever they want on a product and then ship it out directly to the customer. It is a version, in my mind, of drop shipping, except where you're actually creating unique designs and unique products based on those designs, as opposed to just going to AliExpress and just drop shipping something from China or drop shipping something from a local warehouse in the US. So it's an elevated version of drop shipping.
Okay.
And what is great about it is that there are tons of providers. So it's not like there's only one. You don't have to do merch. You could set up a Shopify store, put up your designs, run some traffic to it, or use influencer marketing and immediately start to get feedback and testing it. So, and it's not just t-shirts. You can do hats, you can do coffee mugs. There's other sites like Gear Bubble. Yeah, like the pop sockets. There's hoodies, sweatshirts,
coffee mugs. Yeah.
I mean, pretty much any product around your house, somebody's doing some level of print on demand for it.
Yeah.
So there's a much wider breadth of it. Now, what it comes down to then for me in that business model is audience match.
Okay, but let's just describe it. And then
let's back this up.
Just the basics.
So in essence, what you're doing is that you're creating some designs.
Okay.
Particularly for an audience.
Yeah.
It's most effective. Uploading those designs to some app or platform that's connected to a facility, a manufacturing facility.
Yep.
Then if it's through, for example, your website, they buy it, it gets entered into the back end of your Shopify app, for example.
Yep.
You say, yes, I'm going to approve this. You click the button, yes. It goes to the print on demand facility, the manufacturer. They charge you, but you've already made the sale. So the person's bought it. They charge you to do the manufacturing and the shipping. And then, 8 to 12 days later, it arrives in your customer's mailbox and they have their product.
And by charge you mean they take that money out of what the customer just paid them?
Yeah, typically.
So
it won't be like a direct line, but like if you get paid and then it pulls out and Shopify gives you the difference. Usually it's like they bill you. Sometimes it is, depends on how they have it set up in their Shopify store. Some of them will integrate directly with Shopify in that way where you'll just get the benefit, but oftentimes you'll get charged to like a credit card or whatever's on file. And then it's being reconciled in your bank as opposed to in Shopify. It just depends on how that's created. Now, then Amazon Merch, which you mentioned, is a different platform, in which in that case, it's also print on demand. It's slightly different in the fact that you're not really doing, you can run some traffic. There are some ad potential to do that, but it's really Amazon's traffic and Amazon's buyers. And what you're doing is you're licensing your designs to Amazon, and Amazon is actually the seller of record for that product.
Okay, got it.
So then when Amazon then makes a sale,
it's their customer.
It's their customer, but they give you a royalty. So it's basically, they're like, that's cool. Your design sold. We're going to give you your cut as giving us access and license to sell this product. And that's it. And that's the end of the story. They just send you a royalty thing and you can check that. And you get the ability to upload products directly to their platform.
So let me ask you this. So the print on demand business model for most operators, it looks like them day in and day out, constantly creating new graphic art designs and managing the process of distribution onto these various sites.
Yes, that would be the business operation. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Got you. Okay, so that's the model. We'll talk about the pros and cons of that model, but let's talk about the private label business model, and I'll describe it. And then, of course, help me describe this here. Make sure I get this right. And let me walk through it. So the private label business model, or white labeling, is the idea that you can contact manufacturers who are making items in many, many, many categories, and asking the question, can you put my brand name and my packaging onto or around this product? And in essence, create it in such a way that, although in one version of it, it might be Johnny's, lip balm. In, my packaged version, it's, Jason's lip balm. And then I get the packaging the way I wanted it with my brand. And then I have the opportunity to sell it through wherever I want. I can sell it to local farmers market. I can sell it at, on Amazon. I can sell it on my own Shopify site, et cetera, et cetera. And so many, many companies do this. And there are many manufacturers who work with, people who would like to create a private label brand. And then the business model really comes down to, can you source it, in a cost-effective way? Can you create the brand or packaging that is to some degree appealing to some audience? And then can you find a sales channel to actually move quantity? And generally in this business model, you're ordering a minimum order quantity, MOQ. So they'll say, well, we can put your packaging on this and make it your brand for a minimum of 100 units. And here's the price at 100 units. And generally you're doing that with manufacturers who are most likely in China, but not always. Sometimes it can be other places, United States, Europe, it could be all over. And so they'll do that work and then they'll send it to wherever, your warehouse or to Amazon or to whatever, but you've got to manage that piece. So that's part of the process. And so as a business owner, the way it looks is I'm managing a brand that has ideally one anchor product that's making me money. And then the private label aspect of it is that brand could have, of course, a dozen products. It could have 100 products. And you are managing that private label brand. And in essence, you've sort of outsourced the making of items and the manufacturing of items, the design of items, all of that stuff. You've sort of just gone and taken it off the shelf and inserted it into your packaging. Is that a fair representation of private label? Have I forgotten any parts of it?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay, awesome. So those are the two models. Now let's do this. Let's talk about the first positive. Like, what's the upside? What's the most cool thing about each of these two business models? You want to do print on demand first? What's the coolest number one thing about print on demand?
I think the coolest thing, first and foremost, with print on demand is you can scale winners like pretty quickly. Okay. What I mean by that is, so if you're running your own Shopify store and you're testing a bunch of different designs and you find one design that really starts to pop as a t-shirt or whatever,
sure,
it's super simple to take that and make it a hoodie, a sweater, a coffee mug, a pillow, or like, I mean, you can start to put that design on a lot of different platforms.
Just drag it over.
It's just like boom, 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 boom. And you can get massive product availability quickly. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a pretty big positive for print on demand.
Yeah.
Is that you can do that relatively quickly.
Okay.
For sure.
Love it. Okay. Now let me present the most positive thing that I can think of for private label. And then I'll share the biggest criticism I have of print on demand. And you share the biggest criticism of private label. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. So the biggest positive for private label is, in my opinion, if you can find a product that customers will transact with you for, they'll purchase from you, tied to your specific brand concept, then you've got the basis of a massive business. So I mean, if it doesn't matter the industry or niche, but if you can get customers to say, my preference in this category is Jason's whatever it is, ice cream or lip balm or like whatever, then you've got a huge opportunity to build a real consumer facing business. That's the biggest upside, because I think it's fair to say in most industries, everyone would agree, I don't think this is controversial, that in any industry, the brand that has the most value in the eyes of the consumer is the most valuable company in the category. I mean, that is what we're all striving for, is to be the market leader by brand positioning. Sales is not necessarily the biggest indicator. People can juice sales. You can actually destroy a brand by juicing sales and really driving up sales, but you're damaging your quality, you're damaging your other things. So if you can build a brand that actually has real solid customer engagement, you've got the makings of a world-class operation. And if you're in a tiny niche like I am, you can dominate that niche. If you're in a really big niche like sunglasses or ice cream or tennis shoes, stuff like that, it will be much, much harder to dominate, but you can still find a customer base and win in the long term. So I think that's the biggest upside for private label. Fair enough?
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I agree.
Okay.
So biggest criticism of private label.
Oh, well, I was going to go first for.
Are you? Oh, okay. Go ahead.
You okay?
Right. No, do it. Go ahead. Criticism of print on demand.
Okay. The biggest challenge with print on demand, in my opinion, is, and again, we've seen a lot of people doing this over the last 3 years. Biggest challenge is the protection of your intellectual property is basically zero. And so in my mind, I'm always thinking about what business model gives me a defensible long-term position in the market. And a good business model will create barriers to entry for your competitors over time. So the longer you're in it, the more entrenched you are and the safer you are. And the the less competitors can come in and just destroy you. And I just haven't seen any print on demand operators that have any type of real competitive long-term defensibility. The print on demand people in the space that they operate, I think the classic story that comes to my mind is the Life is Good brand guys. Those t-shirt guys who made a very cool design, and it's Life is Good. And if you've seen those shirts, you know what it looks like. It's like a little cartoon guy. It's a simple idea, but they got it to scale, and they got it to scale because they started selling it in vacation places, destinations. And they have created some degree of defensibility, but I think for most people who are trying merch, who are trying Teespring or other print-on-demand services, if they come up with a good idea and they stick that in and sales velocity begins to occur, boom, there you've got like 25 exact same copies, and you're indistinguishable from any other seller in that way. And to me, that's the biggest problem I see with it.
Yeah, no, that is a fair criticism as well. That's particularly true of selling on merch.
Yeah.
I think there are levels of defensibility you can start to begin to build on if you have your own Shopify store, you're building your brand off of Amazon.
Sure.
But again, that's a whole other skill set. And so, so let me talk about what I think is the biggest criticism of private label.
Okay.
Private label
Bring it on.
Private label was the ideal business model 5 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Particularly on Amazon, because it was so much opportunity. You basically slap your label on it, you sell it, people buy it, you start to skip. I mean, it was beautiful. The challenge with that is that when Amazon sort of allowed Chinese sellers, who these people are buying their private label products to and from, to basically sell on the platform, and now 1/3 of all or more now are of third-party sellers on Amazon are Chinese sellers.
Dude, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a huge number.
Really?
Yeah, it's a huge number.
Uh-oh.
You are now trying to compete on a price point with the people that you're trying to buy the product from, and it doesn't work on the platform.
Brutal.
So it becomes much harder. And what you were articulating was, can you find one product to sort of be the anchor for your new brand? But the challenge that I've seen is that you have to get good at multiple things pretty quickly when you do private label in today's marketplace. Now you might get lucky. You might get lucky and like find it like a quick win hit, but it's going to be probably limited in its life. And that's my critique. It's like usually it'll be a quick product win and then get kind of crushed out.
May I make a rebuttal?
Yes, absolutely.
Is it
rebut away?
You know the rules of debate, so let me know if I'm breaking any debate rules.
No, you're fine.
Here's my rebuttal. There's definitely two what you might call implementations of the private label model.
Yes.
One that I described when I started this conversation is what you might call, in my opinion, a holistic private label strategy. What you just described is a packaging strategy.
Yes.
So you didn't criticize my business model.
Sure.
Criticized a crappy business model for Amazon sellers that, honestly, let's be really honest, was a tactic to just package something slightly differently so that they could camp on sales velocity in a category with their little version of the same exact thing. Sure. And they honestly didn't care what their private label brand was, the name. Right. I mean, I've literally had clients who we have said, what's your private label? And I'm like, I got a bunch, but I mean, I don't really care about that. I think this one's called such and such. Do you own that as a URL? No.
Yes.
Does someone own it as a URL? Yeah, I don't know. Well, what about trademark? Did you get a registered trademark for that? Nah. Well, does someone else own that registered trademark? Yeah, I think so, but I mean, I don't care. I'm just selling it on Amazon. So there's definitely two versions of private label.
For sure.
Okay, so
No, I'm agreeing with you, but the
Okay.
classical view of private label is you take a product, you put your brand on it, and you try to sell it and move it on Amazon, right?
No,
Or wherever.
that's the Amazon seller's classic view of private
But
label.
sure. So, but what you're describing in terms of like private label as a broader
A real
context
business.
on Shopify, right?
Well, it could be anywhere, but yeah.
Or wherever, eBay or wherever it's at.
Yeah.
But I guess my point is the popularized version of private label is what my critique is on.
I would agree.
And what you're describing, though, in detail and did a good job, was creating a brand that then went out and found products that would serve their customer and their audience, which is valid. Now, the criticism of that, though, is that you have to get good at building a brand.
That's right.
And you have to get good at developing product.
Yeah.
And those skill sets, although somewhat similar, are diverse enough that people struggle with that process to do it at a high level in order to gain momentum.
Yeah.
So that is the criticism in terms of that. Now, that's also a benefit if you're doing it well, because that makes it the bar of entry is higher, and that's what you want in a business model. You're trying to do that. And so back to the print on demand process, though, one of the things that I think is a benefit to print on demand.
Is this your second benefit?
This is my second benefit. Okay. Are you done with your criticism? Okay, this is my second benefit.
Yes.
Is speed.
Okay.
Because one, if you're just doing design work, you can implement design work really quickly at scale. Like if you're starting, either you have money or you're doing it yourself, I can hire designers right now by the truckload to just crank out to really weed through and understand what my audience is going to go and want to buy from me.
Yeah.
So that piece of it. The other thing that's nice about it is you're not investing a lot of money into inventory in order to test it. So in private label, you're going to have to spend time, money, and energy buying. It's a physical product. There's shipping involved. There's delays in shipping involved, right? Yeah. Whereas print on demand, you make the sale. It's hopefully, not all the time, going out to your customer pretty soon, pretty quickly, and at a high enough quality.
Okay.
So that is a benefit.
Speed
my benefit
no
is
inventory.
They're going to go hand in hand a little bit, but you could bring it up into
2 and 3.
So let's say speed of implementation is point number 2.
Okay. Second benefit. Okay.
Second benefit.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Second benefit of private label, in my opinion, is you can create a sellable asset with private label business model. And, by that, I mean, if you get the work done correctly, and if you have an anchor product and then a collection of products around a named, brand, and you've done the work as just described properly, get the URL, get the registered trademark, get sales velocity and really build something of consequence. There are many, many people who will buy that off of you. And the multiples won't maybe be huge, but, traditionally you'll maybe get 3-4 times net, profit. Maybe you'll get 1-time sales. If somebody really wants you, maybe they'll do more than that, higher multiple. But, if you work on something for 5 years and at the end of that day, 5 years later, you can sell that and be done with it. That feels like a real, and, I think that's important to think about. What's the long term? What's the end game? And are you at the end of it, are you going to have something of consequence? Still with me?
Right. Yep. You're cutting in and out there for a second.
Sorry. All right. So rebuttals. Criticisms.
Well, it's interesting because I think that if you did POD correctly and print on demand, that argument would also fall on my side as well, because if you're building a brand that's of value, and even though your product isn't necessarily a physical product, but it's the design collection that you have, and it's the buyer list, and it's the, if you're doing it like on a Shopify store and you're owning that instead of merch, that argument can kind of fall on the POD side of the table as well, if you've done it and set it up properly.
So if you do beyond merch, have your own website, have your own registered trademark, have intellectual property that you've protected somehow, you could sell it potentially. Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
They do sell.
Okay. So
there are marketplaces that do sell them.
What's your second biggest criticism of private label? And I'll share my second biggest criticism of print on demand.
I think my second biggest criticism of private label is, honestly, it's startup costs. If you're new to the game and you're coming in fresh, how do you deploy the limited resources, or maybe you have a lot of resources depending on where you're at and how you approach it, but how do you deploy your resources to be the most effective? And private label with physical products requires a significant amount of investment that to get started, but also to scale. So you have to be really, really finely tuned in your forecasting and your planning. And so that, well, you might launch, but which takes money, and not a small amount to really do it well.
Yeah.
But then also to get that to scale, you're going to need more money, or much better either money management process, or you're going to have ridiculously good margins in order to do with that product. So that's my criticism of
startup cost. Okay, fair enough. I think that's true. I get that. Here's my second biggest criticism of print on demand. And you just referenced the phrase, but I already had it in my mind before you said that, is
all right.
The margins.
Happy to help you out.
Yeah. The margins are crap. And so here's the problem with print on demand margins. The people making money in print on demand are the actual makers of the items that are like delivering it. It's the cup maker, the t-shirt maker, the hoodie maker, the pop socket maker. Those people are making all the money, and they've just outsourced their graphic art department to the masses, and you're going to get a very small margin on your work on the per unit basis. And here's the problem. That's totally fine if you're selling on merch. It's totally fine if you're selling on, some other platform that they do it all for you. But if you want to sell on your own Shopify site, the margins will never justify the site costs, the customer acquisition costs, the customer service costs, on and on and on and on and on. And there's no money left to build it properly on your own Shopify site, so that you create the value and the equity that you are talking about. I mean, if there are people who have done this, and maybe YouTube, if there's somebody on YouTube that's a big, huge POD proponent, and you say, no, I actually scaled this on my own website and there's margin to do it, then let us know. But honestly, you just don't see that. Yeah. You see people making money on merch, but they're doing that because Amazon has all the customers, all the customer service, all the customer acquisition costs, all the technologists, and you don't have to pay for any of that. And your profit is reflected in that way. And I think to me, that's the biggest problem. It's almost like a cul-de-sac that you're in. Like you can do it makes sense. You can get it moving on Amazon, but it's not healthy enough margins to take it outside of that and get it working in the real world. Because there's just no money, unless you're like a jack of all trades and you know how to do all of it. You know how to do the social media, customer acquisition, email marketing, paid ads, how to set up your own website, how to do your own customer service. I mean, if you're the jack of all trades, then maybe you got a shot at that. But that's a 1 in a 1,000 or 10,000 person. And realistically, to set up something that's meaningful on Shopify, you're talking about having a per unit markup. You better be in the 3 to 6 times markup range.
Yeah.
and three would be brutal. You just won't make any money. You won't be dining out on that deal. You won't be paying yourself on that deal. And then, once
you could afford eating at McDonald's. It's like $1 menu, man.
Depends on the sales volume, but
sure.
Yeah, but it's a reality check for how expensive Shopify is to set up. And I'm the biggest fanboy of Shopify, and I work with people every day setting them up. But it's just a reality check to say you better have margin, or it just won't work. So yeah. Well,
I agree.
So I got to be honest. Both business models to me are interesting. But if I had to render an opinion on both of them, one versus the other, I guess I would say private label is better because that's the side I'm arguing. But I think, honestly, I might have chosen that side when we started this because I think it's a little bit better of a model. What's your opinion of the two realistically? What do you think is better of a model?
I think it comes down to your skill set, that which you start with. I think if you are a graphic designer or you are a creative, and you already have a skill in that space and you can do that, then maybe print on demand is where you should start because it leans into already what you do. You test it on Amazon, you start making money, you think about how do you expand that brand on Shopify or on other platforms, on Etsy, all those different kind of components. And then you start thinking about scale because you're right. The margins are small. And the only way you really make money is that you're moving a lot of units. Yeah. You have to move a lot. So you have to think in those terms. I mean, I know people, I've talked to people that have done it in that way, but they were already dialed in, understood graphically where they wanted to go, how to elevate other things that are out there with their sort of unique style. And they crushed it, right? But they were already sort of weighted in that area. So if you're not, then private label may be definitely the model in which you get into. But all of them, every single business model is there, requires certain levels of skill sets and competencies that which you have to figure out where you sort of best fit in, and then either build your team or get competent enough to sort of get wind under it to get you where you need to go. But that's what it kind of comes down to, is I think your own competencies and your ability to sort of build out your.
All right. I call that a kind answer to POD, but let me just make you force rank them.
Sure. I would prefer so in all honesty,
you run a private label brand.
I know, like I've done private label, so it's like kind of like lean into that a little bit more. I've never done POD. I mean, I know enough about it. I've dabbled with it. My wife's looked at it a little bit, so I understand it, but I've never actually this is what I want to do as a business model. For all of the reasons that you laid out, it doesn't appeal to me necessarily. I see some definite advantages in it, but private label, more importantly, just sort of an original manufacturing, sort of your design, you're elevating the current product that's out there in some level, in some sense, is more of an appeal to me because that's taking it to the next level. So
and I think that's fair. And honestly, you guys have mastered the private label opportunity, in my opinion, that you have. I mean, your brand, can we talk about your brand for a minute and kind of brag on what you do?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Old Boy, first of all, if you're not familiar with Kyle's two brands, Lita Art Supply and then Old Boy in the skate space, skateboard, longboard, is that what you call it?
Yeah, it's longboard, skateboard.
You guys, literally your Old Boy, private label is just amazingly awesome, and people should go check it out. And so, you've done it right. You guys have crushed it, you and your business partner Gary, on that. And so I think what you've done is fantastic. And Lita is amazing as well. Lita is not technically private label though, like Old Boy is. So
Old Boy is straight
private label,
classical private label. Although we approached it much more from a branding, packaging, elevating. Like the play wasn't that we're going to fundamentally change the product, because the product is what it is. There's no new technology, but it is brand, it's messaging, it's packaging, and all those things. We decided to take an angle and to try to elevate, and that's really what's allowing it to take flight.
Yeah, and it's brilliantly done. So I highly encourage people to go check it out if they wonder how that works. Dude, this has been a great debate. I think we need to debate a few other business models. Digital goods versus physical goods, of course,
will
be the biggie, because that's your wheelhouse and my wheelhouse. Like, so that'll be a fun debate. I think that makes sense. So if you like this conversation, then subscribe to our channel. Obviously, as we mentioned at the beginning, we're doing this on YouTube now. And so we'd love to get people's buy-in, comments. If you have an opinion, you think we've treated print on demand or private label unfairly in our criticisms, then feel free to leave a comment underneath on YouTube. And we'd love to hear from you on it, and love to hear your feedback on other business models you'd like us to discuss. As always, you can check us out for Inner Circle and one-on-one coaching on our website, winningonshopify.com. That's where you'll get all of our blog posts, our resources, our training courses. You get access to Inner Circle if you want to join that. And there's opportunity to apply for, being a one-on-one consulting client with us. And so that's where all that's done, winningonshopify.com. And bro, great time.
Good times.
YouTube.
Good times.
Thank you, YouTube, for welcoming us. This was a good show. Good show.
So. It was fun.
Yep. All right, man. Until next time.
All right. See you guys later. Peace.
Later. Yep.